Welcome to the home of the hillbilly. Yeah, baby, it's a land of barbed wire moonshine.
Alright guys, this is a video on some basic beginner's leatherworking tools. A lot of people will tell you to start off that you need to buy all this fancy stuff, especially if you go into a leather store. They'll want to sell you strap-end punches and strap cutters and all kinds of different multiple-pronged craft tool puncher thingies and all this expensive stuff that you really don't need if you're just getting started to see if you like it. The only thing that I would add to this right here that you may want to get is some leather glue or some sort of cement or something you could use to glue your pieces together, but you don't need that. I made a lot of sheaths without it. And a belt sander if you have access to one of those. If not, I've successfully used a work sharp for the same application, and like a disc sander, you just shove it in a vise. But basically what you need a sander for is making sure all your edges are flush and smooth and maybe helping you get this taper correct, but that's just aesthetic stuff. Minor aesthetic stuff. So, just kind of go over an overview. This is all you need to make this sheath and this axe cover. In addition to this, you're going to need some leather. You can spend however much or however little as you want on that. It's entirely up to you. Where I get just about all my stuff is the Tandy Leather Factory. You can order it online. They have a shop really close to where I am, so I just go in there and buy whatever I need. They're real helpful. So without further ado, we'll get started. I'll start off here. Oh, by the way, the only things here that you cannot get at the Tandy Leather Factory is this knife. They will sell you knives like this and this paintbrush, and they will sell you ones like that, but they won't be the exact ones. So this is just a little cheapo X-Acto knife that's got the cut-off swedge type blade here. I move it along like this when I'm cutting. I get better control, and I like this one because it fits good in your hand. This cuts grooves for your thread to sit in on the front side so it doesn't rub up against your clothing and whatnot. It's adjustable. It's really convenient, actually. I don't know the sizes or like the names or anything for all this stuff. I'm terrible with remembering stuff like that. And this is just a round over edge taperer. I prefer this one over the straight ones just because it makes it flow better. It just looks better. This is a wool dauber. You use these for applying dye if you want to. Sometimes I just use these if I'm doing it on a big space. And you also would use something like this when you're putting the black on the edge. I use edge coat. You don't have to buy any of that. But here, I'll show you what the bottle looks like in case you decide to. Just some Fibbings edge coat. They sell all kinds of this stuff, different versions. I think they have edge coat enamel. They have black, brown, whatever color you want, pretty much. This is some good stuff, so I'll put that up here. I use this for applying the neat's foot oil as a dye. Oop. Now you can buy prime neat's foot oil. I think they also have pure neat's foot oil. You can buy it in, I think it's like 8-ounce jars. You can buy it in this big 32-ounce bottle, or you can buy it in a gallon jug. However much you want to spend, however much you think you're going to need. You will go through it quickly. It takes probably around half a cup to do an entire sheath or a project or something in that stuff, which is why a lot of people advise you dye it. But I like to use the oil because it's kind of self-healing. If you scratch it, it starts to fill in by itself. You see how that works right there? It just starts to go away, and if you need to go a little faster, you just rub it, and it's almost all gone. So that's why I use oil. this is just a 2-prong diamond on the end shaped leather punch. You punch 2 holes to start with, and then what I do is I put 1 prong in one of the holes and I punch a new one with the other one, and then you just keep going along like that. That way you make sure you have the same space in between, and it's easy to pull this one out when you're going through a big thick stack of leather. You can also buy 4-pronged ones. I have some of those. I have 3-pronged ones. I think I even have an 8-pronged one somewhere. And, you know, I just prefer this one over all of those. You need something to slick your edges with. Just you can use cardboard. I have a lathe, so I just made one. I took a piece of poplar. I used my V-tool, and I just cut a notch in it, and then what you're going to do with this is you're going to slide it along the leather to get everything all slicked down when you're going to apply your edge coat. That way it gets all shiny. You know, they sell stuff like this made out of plastic over there at the leather store, so they're pretty cheap to get. The next thing you're going to need as far as hardware and stuff goes is some of these snaps. They come with the little setter and the anvil. I think there's 24 brass and 24 stainless ones in here. Or you can buy some button studs. It just depends. One thing you do want to know with these is you don't want to have a whole bunch of extra parts of the shank in there sticking out. So here, I'll see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Let me open this up. I never use the brass ones. I just prefer the way the stainless steel looks. Okay. So you'll have this piece, this little shaft part right here, and that's going to go up on the inside of the other piece. I don't know any technical names here, I'm sorry. And it's going to stick out like that. If you leave that much of it sticking out, it's not going to set straight. I cut it and grind it off until it's just a little bit below the edge right here. And then I pound it on like that. One thing I also do is before I start doing anything, when you set it, this is going to move back in there a little bit because it's not flush up against the back right here. This part is just crimped over, this inside part. So what I do is I stick it in my vise and I squeeze it down until I can feel it hit this back side. That way I know it's not going to move at all when I start pounding on it. So that's good just to keep in mind. It took me a long time to figure that out, why I couldn't get a straight snap set. Put that back over there. So, you know, some of this stuff is not cheap. It's kind of an expensive hobby, really, but once you get all the tools, all you're buying is like your liquids and stuff like that. Next, you're going to want a rubber mallet. You can buy these at Walmart for like $10. Not expensive, not a big deal. Get that out of the way. The last thing you're going to need is some hardware. What I've got in here is 1/4-inch eyelets. This is only good for doing thin stuff. You know, they use these on Kydex and whatnot. These are, I think they're 1/2-inch rivets. They have little caps that go on them. And then, last thing you're going to need is some needles. You get a good pack of those. And what you might want, a couple of these Chicago screw assemblies. And like with all these different snaps and stuff, you gotta, unless you buy this kit over here, you gotta buy the anvil and the setter. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Make sure you buy the right one for whatever you're doing. So with that, guys, good luck with what you're doing.